So this is the third in the series of top 10 tips to save 10 minutes in The Sims. We've got 10 tips here. Some are old, some are new, and hopefully there's something in here for everybody. And if you haven't seen the other two things, as well as a load of other things from our masterclasses that we're running, please visit our Scomis YouTube channel as well. So let's go. So the aim of the session is to show you a range of tips that can be time savers for you. And it'll take about 30 minutes, and then there'll be 15 minutes at the end for questions. Don't feel you have to stay for the questions if you don't want to. One of my philosophies has always been is if you can save somebody 10 minutes a day, over the year, you saved them more than a week, which is a massive amount of time. And it doesn't mean you're going to have that a week putting your feet up. It means it can relieve a bit of the stress of your day. So we're going to talk through some of the things that Sims can make life a bit easier for you. All right. We would at this point in most of our presentations ask you a question about how confident you feel. And that question seems a bit silly at this point because how confident you feel in 10 tips. Okay. So let's start in straight at number 10. So number 10 top tip. This is really aimed at everybody who's hosted by us. And you know those days where things just aren't going right and you can't get into Sims or something like that. It's useful to know if it's you. If you go to this link, http://status.scomis.org, you can subscribe to our feeds. And that'll tell you if we've got anything wrong with the system at our end. So if lots of people are having troubles logging on, you will get an email message saying lots of our customers are having troubles logging on. Thankfully, that doesn't happen too often, but it does mean you'll know straight away. And in fact, you get the same feed that the service desk get. So really useful there. And then if everything's working fine from our end and you still haven't got people logging on, you may want to give a service desk a ring and they can help you identify where the problem might be. On the connector you use to log in, there are some service tools in there, which if they'll talk you through how to run them, will identify where problems could possibly be. And also at scomis.org, we've got our portal as well. So please go along to there. All right. So this is a service. If you subscribe to us, you're paying for. Please use the portal. Please use the website. And as always, please give the service desk a ring if you're stuck with anything. Right. Number 9 top tip. This is really for secondary schools, which are printing out timetables. And it's been one of my niggles for years. If you go to print a timetable in the past, it's always gone to the effective date when you open this window. And if you then start typing the student's name, it messes up the date. And at long last, what they've done is change it to default to search by name. So you don't have to do that click from there down to there. It makes life so much simpler. You know, it's only going to save you 1 or 2 seconds, but it's going to save you a lot of frustration. Well, it's certainly going to save me a lot of frustration. So have a look out for that one. It's in the latest version of Sims. It goes straight to search by name. At number 8, once again, this one's for secondary schools. The other ones, the rest of the things are for primaries as well. On your timeline on the screen, if you've got classes timetabled, if you do a right-hand click, you can go straight to these things. You can go straight to take a register or do student lists or get this class photograph straight out of Sims without having to go anywhere else in Sims, straight from the timeline. A really nice, useful, quick way of getting information. At number 7, open a window. It's getting busy in here. Right, I'm just going to move across now and get logged into our version of Sims. Just logged out while we're waiting. You know what it's like in Sims. You're going around and you're opening all sorts of things up, and then when you're doing that, let me go to a student record. All right, you get all these windows open, and the quick way of getting around to any window you've got open is just click on window, and here it'll show you the windows you've got open. So rather than having to go through the menu again, if you've got it open, you can just go straight there, click on that, and you're back to where you were. So that little Windows button up there, very rarely used, but a real useful one for getting to information, especially if one of these people end up with lots of open windows. All right, so I can go to a window and go straight back to my home page like that. All right, so open the window when it's getting really busy is really quite useful. So at number six, the Sims shortcuts. All right, this has been in here before, but down here you've got the Sims shortcut bar. If it's not there, you just click on those double-headed arrows. And what you can do here is if you do a right-hand click, hang on, right? If you do a right-hand click, you can do add a panel, and you can type things in. So, for instance, I could type in, oh, I don't know, assessment. All right, and then in here, I can now add external and internal shortcuts. Right, so if there's something I use a lot of, so I want to go to focus assessment and go to mark sheets, that's there. So in future, all I need to do is click on that and it'll take me straight there. So there's things that you use frequently, you can add them to this bar on the side. All right, so you can also remove it at any time if you want, and you can also add external shortcuts to web pages and such like. Right, so that add panel on that bar is really useful. Let's just go back to my home page. Right. The other thing you might notice along the same sort of lines, here you've got your favorites box. And in that favorites box, it will show you your top places that you go. There's 4 pages of it. And what it does is as you're going around Sims, it'll show you the ones that you've been going to most recently. And it will show them there. So rather than having to go all the way through all the different entry things, you can just go there, click on it, and you can see in this case, it'll take me straight to the aspect setup. All right. So let's just go back to that home page. So shortcuts, really nice one. Next one, so blimey, we're at number 5 already. So at number 5, we've got adding behavior and achievement points to a mark sheet. Right now, recently, this is in the last update to Sims, they've added these extra columns you can display in Sims. So you've got your UDS there in there now, and they came in a little while ago, and now you can add achievement points and behavior points to a mark sheet. So if we go and load in a mark sheet, oh look, I've got mark sheet entry there already. All right, and just go and choose a mark sheet to load in. I'll choose that one. All right, if I do a right-hand click in the students area here, select additional student columns, I can now add in my behavior points and say, okay, and they come up. And the nice thing is, if you change this is a total behavior points, right, on that date. If you change that result date, it will change your behavior points. Really nice thing, for instance, if you've got mark sheets there where you may have somebody overlooking a lot of students, maybe ahead of year or head of subject, and wanting to see that information alongside any grades and levels they're getting. So a really nice one there. And I've got to stop saying a really nice one there. All right. Now I've got to stop saying all right as well, but hey go. Right, so we'll close that one down. So the next one is going to be attendance without the rising 5s. Very often, we've shown you school report before, and if you haven't seen school report, it's a really good way of getting a load of information straight out of Sims. So let's just drop into school report and show you that. So in school report, I'll just take some of these off to speed things up a bit. And I'll do the long version and show coverage and say generate. Okay. So what comes here is you get your pupil numbers, and then as you go down, you start to get breakdowns by key pastoral factors and so on. All right, it will also give you, and I forgot to, I should have clicked that one in, click generate again. All right, so we've got all these factors here, the key pastoral factors, and then we get all these attendance summaries for different groups as well. And it gives you an overall one for all years. Now that's great, but very often primary schools don't want the rising fives in there. And at the moment, it includes the rising fives. So if you want some attendance information, overall attendance information that doesn't include the rising fives, there is another way of doing it. And for that, we go to reports and we go to attendance, or in secondary schools, it'll say lesson monitor. And then we go to group analysis, group reports, and then by attendance category. If we go to there, all right, can you see this box here? It comes in as default now. So this is where you can exclude your rising fives from your database by selecting which dates of birth you want to keep them in. And so if I now go to year group and search, you see it brings me all my year groups in. I'll do a select all and then go to print. Say okay at that point. Can you see here, even though I have got group N2 selected, that's where my rising fives are, it hasn't brought in that thing, and now I'm getting attendance for each year group like that. If I wanted to, if I take out that restrict, and I'll just put the percentages on for now, and then do a print again, you can see now, because I've taken off the restriction for rising fives, it's included my N2s there. Okay, and it also gives you that all-important total down at the bottom. So if you're a primary school and you've got the problem with rising fives, or that's a really easy way of getting your attendance without it. It's on quite a few, but not all. Some places it's more appropriate than others. It's in quite a few of these attendance reports. So restrict by date of birth. Next one, so now down at number 3. Now, number 3, the next 3 all sort of go together quite nicely. If you've quite a few people have been using this with COVID about setting up user-defined fields for things like critical worker, if a parent's critical workers, or social worker and such like. So if we go into here, into user-defined fields, you can then click search. This shows you the user-defined fields that are set up, and you can then click new, and then you can decide where you want your user-defined field to go and what you want it to be called. So if I call this one social worker, and you then put it into persons, and you put it into student details, it asks you what field you want it to go into, and you can set the text length for it. If you don't want text, you can say, quite often people just use the true false. And if you want that user-defined field to be available in Assessment Manager, you can put that in there as well, and you save it. Right, so that's a user-defined field, and once you set that on the pupil field, if we go to search, go and pick a pupil, this will fail on me, so we've got to use defined fields here. All right, click on number 13. We've got it down there, and we've got the social worker box ticked down there. All right, so you can add that, and it doesn't have to be just the user-defined fields when you set it up. You can assign it to any one of these other groups as well. All right, so user-defined fields really nice when you want a tick box for something. And one thing that people have been asking for is about adding in the COVID vaccination as a medical event. All right, so this is tip number 2. And it's a very similar sort of path to what we've just done, in that you do tools and you go down to maintain medical event. You can then search for it. Well, obviously COVID vaccine is going to be immunization, so I can go in there, and you can see I've already added in COVID injection there. But we can just go in there, you can click new, you can add your new code and description, decide whether it's active or not. So another thing there, that if you've got lots of these already in there that you're no longer using, obviously take the active one out and it'll disappear off your sheet. You won't be able to delete it if somebody's actually edited a value and added a value to a student in there. You can't delete it, but you can make it inactive. All right. Now, when you've done that and you've added your new one in, all right, obviously, let me just go and I'll just call this CO19 for now. COVID vaccination, and say OK. I can now save it. But one of the things it needs to do is when you save it, you are going to have to come right out of Sims and back into Sims for it to have an effect. All right. So just be wary of that when you do it. And people won't be able to see that until they've been out and come back in again. All right. So if they're in there all the time, they won't be able to see it until they're out and then in. So I'm not going to do that because obviously I want to carry on with this demonstration. Now, the final one we've got is a thing called Discover Alerts. All right, so I don't know how many people have actually used Discover. It's there, it's with Sims, it's free. And one thing you can do with it is actually set alerts up for when things happen. And let's just talk you through how you do that. So hopefully you've got Discover up here. If you're hosted by us and you haven't got Discover, if you contact the service desk, they can see about getting it set up for you to use. And all you do is just click on the Discover thing and you will end up with this desktop. All right, this is set up for the current year. And then along here, you've got these little books who show you all sorts of different things. So I'm going to look at the pastoral structure first of all, and I'm going to look at key pastoral factors. So I drop that on, it'll just whir away while it goes and finds the information. So it shows us how many we've got of each one of these categories. If I want to, I can copy that and paste it into Word. When I paste it into Word, it'll lose a black background, which is quite handy. It saves lots of toner. I can save that out as a JPEG to a shared area. I can also have it as a pie chart rather than a bar chart, or I can have it as a line graph. And for this information, this is the most appropriate way. And if I click on the column, it will then pop up. So let me just drag my desktop down a bit, and it will show me all the students that fit into that category. And I can click copy, and it'll copy me a list, which I can easily paste again into Word or into Excel. So that's the student pastoral factors there. The other one I'm going to look at now is some attendance. All right, so I'm going to look at percentage session absence year to date. All right, these figures look absolutely dreadful at the moment. All right, because we've got 443 students with more than 5% absence, which is terrible, isn't it? But if I'm interested in how many free school meals children, so I pick up free school meals and drop that over there. And I'm interested in absence, all right, those 90 students are free school meals that are absent for more than 5% of the time. And then if I go to the cog, I can create a new Discover group and pull that down here. And then I just pick that up, that 90, and drop that on there. Okay, so let me just, you can see it gets quite crowded. And so we've got free school meals, current year, and 5%. And I'm going to save that. But when I save it, I'm going to save it as a dynamic group. And I'm going to call it, in this case, GHFSM absence is greater than 5%. And I'm going to click the flag. All right. And the flag means alert me. And when somebody joins this group or somebody leaves this group, I'm going to want an alert from that. I can change it for number of people that enter the group. So if there are X number of people enter it, I can do it. But most of the time, you just do it when somebody joins and somebody leaves, and then click save. All right, so that's saving to groups. And then if I close all my little things down here, if I go to there, you can see the one I've just created. I can just bring that up and put that on there, all right, and change it if I need to. Now, once I've done that bit, if I now go back to Sims and then go to Focus, and we go down to Groups, and there's Discover Groups here. And then click Search, and you can see the one I've just created. And if I double click on that, you can see at the moment who's got a supervisory role on there. And if I scroll down a bit further, you can see all the students that are there, and you can see when they join the group. And if they leave the group, obviously the orange line stops and it goes back to white. But what I can also do now is add in other supervisors. So as I click on here, I can search for members of staff. So here, Carl is head of that year group. I can give him the years, the time I want him to be a supervisor for that group for. All right, and then I can then add in another supervisor. So I'll add in Susan and say, okay. So these people are supervisors. Now what will happen, right, when I save that, is every day they will get a message when that group changes. And that message will appear, it's useful, this window thing, that will appear on the home page in my messages. And if they click on that link, it'll take them directly to, using this thing, it'll take them directly to this list of students down here, the membership list, so they can see which students are joining and leaving that group. All right, so that's a really good way, is highlighting people who need to know things, and they don't have to keep go looking for it. Sims prods them for it. All right, so that's our top 10 tips for this session. Once again, we'd ask another question. I think probably what we'd like you to do is, if you found any of those tips particularly useful, all right, it would be worth just typing into the chat which was your favorite one, or one you found most useful. So there's registering for the customer portal, there's printing timetables, there's the right-hand click on the timeline, there's using window to open your windows, adding things to Sims shortcuts, being able to add behavior to mark sheets, getting your attendance without the rising fives, user-defined fields, COVID vaccinations as a medical event, or adding any other medical event you'd like, and discover alerts. So those are the ones. So if you like any of those, please type it into the chat. That'd be great. And finally, one more thing for me, well, penultimately, ESS would like your ideas and feedback, and here's where you can go and give those ideas of feedback. And I went on there today just to check out, and one thing made my heart sing, which was this school report is going to include year groups and date of birth filters. So that in the school report, that's one I showed you where you got everything. They will be able, you'll be able to run that without, so you'll be able to run that with just the statutory age pupils, right, which will make a big difference into that. So 65 people voted for it, and it's now in their planning. All right, and then next one for me is, did I mention the phone service desk number? Yeah, I did. Use a documentation link on Sims. I haven't mentioned that. We've mentioned it plenty of times before. If we go back to our home page and click on documentation, that'll take you to a web page within ESS where you can get all the documentation to do with Sims. All right, the quick reference sheets are a godsend. So that's clicking the documentation button up here. And then my next one, this is the thing that happens when you start clicking, isn't it? You start to lose your place. Go to the Scomis YouTube channel. There's Bite Size and YouTube. And if what was new to you, please add that to the chat. That's my email address. If you think we can be of any help with you using Sims, that'd be absolutely great. All right, so just give us a ring, either on the service desk, email me, email your school accounts manager, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So, any questions in there, Craig? Craig's probably talking, we're not turning his microphone on. I can bring up the mic.
I'm talking without my microphone.
Yeah.
As you just said. Yeah, no, we've got some, adding behaviors to a mark sheets come up. We like the Discover alerts twice. We like updating Sim shortcuts. That's it for the moment. But the Discover alerts, yeah, are really, really good.
Yeah. So, and I just showed you the Discover alert there to do with attendance. You can set all sorts of Discover alerts up. So if somebody joins the free school meals register, you can have a Discover alert for that. If somebody becomes a service children, so you can set them up for anything you want in the same way. I just have to choose that one with attendance and free school meals children.
And there are 2 videos on our YouTube site. There's one which is doing the head teacher's report using Discover to do a graphical version of a report a head teacher might do to governors. And there's one which is just a generic using Discover video, both on our YouTube channel.
And one of the things to mention as well is if you've got a new member of staff in school who's using Sims, we do a series of digital training courses, which if you subscribe to us, they are free. They can use it for a year. They can dip in and dip out whenever they want. So that's a really useful course. And then obviously we do run other courses which you have to pay for, one of which is Discover. But if you've got a new member of staff joining you or about to join you, have a look at those courses, those digital courses, which are free. If you contact your account manager or the service desk, they'll be able to give you the full details. Right, that's my half hour up. So if there's any questions, we'll clip the recording here at this point. If you've got any questions and you want to speak them rather than type them, please do so. Otherwise, thank you ever so much for your time. We'll send you a link out to where the video is once it's uploaded, and we'll also send you a link to the PowerPoint presentation as well, so you can use that and just refresh your memories, etc. Many thanks.